The world blurred into a kaleidoscope of pain and color. And then nothing. One moment. I was Ethan Caldwell, a 28-year-old barista in Seattle, scrolling through a novel on my phone during a slow shift. The next, I was gasping for air, sprawled on a cold marble floor, wearing a tailored suit that wasn't mine, in a body that felt wrong. This wasn't my life. I wasn't Ethan anymore. I was Lucas Harrington, the cruel, scheming side character from Fate's End, a melodramatic novel I'd been hate reading for weeks. Lucas, the jealous ex who tormented the story's golden couple, was destined to die a pathetic, lonely death after betraying everyone. But I wasn't about to let some pre-written tragedy dictate my fate. I'd rewrite it all starting with him. The room I'd landed in was a lavish penthouse suite, all glass and steel, overlooking San Francisco's glittering skyline. My reflection in a nearby mirror confirmed it: sharp cheekbones, jet black hair, and cold green eyes that screamed villain. My heart pounded. I knew this Siniat was the night Lucas crashes a gala to sabotage Noah Carter, the novel's saintly protagonist, and his destined love, Amelia. In the book, Lucas spreads vicious lies, gets humiliated, and sets his downfall in motion. Not tonight. I straightened my tie, my hands trembling. The gala was downstairs, a whirlwind of champagne flutes and fake smiles. I had to play Lucas perfectly charming but cruel while finding a way to derail this doomed script. As I stepped into the elevator, a memory hit me: Lucas's obsessive love for Noah, buried beneath layers of rage and betrayal. That was my key. If I could tap into that, maybe I could change everything. The ballroom was a sea of glittering gowns and tuxedos, the air thick with perfume and ambition. Noah stood near the bar, his blonde curls catching the chandelier's light, laughing with Amelia, who looked every bit the storybook heroine in her emerald dress. My chest tightened, not just from Lucas's lingering emotions, but from something deeper. Something mine. Noah's smile was warm, unguarded, and it stirred a pang I didn't expect. Lucas. A voice purred, dripping with venom. It was Claire, another side character, Lucas's supposed ally in the novel's schemes, ready to make Noah regret ever crossing you. I forced a smirk, channeling Lucas's arrogance. Change of plans. Claire. I'm done playing dirty. Her eyes narrowed, but I brushed past her. My gaze locked on Noah. This was the moment Lucas would have ruined him. Instead, I grabbed 2 glasses of champagne and approached. Noah, I said, my voice smoother than I felt. A word. His blue eyes flickered with surprise, then wariness. What's this about? Lucas. Amelia tensed beside him, but I ignored her, offering Noah a glass. Just a toast. To new beginnings. The room seemed to hold its breath. In the novel, Lucas would have spiked the drink or thrown it in Noah's face. Instead, I clinked my glass against his and drank, my eyes never leaving his. A spark of curiosity flashed in his gaze, and I knew I'd cracked the script. Just a little. The night unfolded like a tightrope walk. I dodged Claire's attempts to pull me back into the novel's plot, weaving through conversations with a charm I didn't know I had. Noah kept glancing my way, his confusion growing. By the time the gala ended, I'd planted the first seed. Noah didn't trust Lucas, but he was intrigued. That was enough for now. Back in the penthouse, I collapsed onto a velvet couch, my mind racing. Lucas's memories flooded my ears of unrequited love for Noah, twisted into jealousy by a world that punished vulnerability. I wasn't Lucas, but I felt his pain, his longing. And I knew Noah's story, a man hiding his true self to fit the mold of a perfect hero, trapped by expectations. If I could reach him, if I could show him he didn't have to be the story's puppet, maybe we could both escape our fates. The next morning, I found Noah at a coffee shop in the Mission District, sketching in a worn notebook. This wasn't in the novel. Lucas never sought Noah out like this. I slid into the seat across from him, ignoring his startled look. "You draw?" I said, nodding at his sketch of the Bay Bridge. "Didn't know that." He closed the notebook. Guarded. "What do you want?" "Lucas. Last night was weird." "I'm not who you think I am," I said, leaning forward. "I'm done with the games. I want to know you. Noah. The real you." His laugh was sharp, disbelieving. "You want to know me? After everything you've done?" "I'm trying to undo it," I said, my voice raw. "Give me a chance." He stared at me, searching for the lie. But there was none. For the first time, I wasn't playing a role. I was Ethan, reaching out to Noah, not as a villain, but as someone who saw him really saw him. And in that moment, I knew I was falling for him. Script be damned. Noah didn't trust me. Not yet. How could he? Lucas had spent years building walls of cruelty between them, and I was stuck wearing his face, his reputation. But I saw the crack in his armor that morning in the coffee shop. The way his fingers lingered on the notebook. The way his eyes softened when I didn't push. I had a month before the novel's next big plot point, Lucas's betrayal at a charity auction, that would cement his villainy. I had to rewrite the story before then. San Francisco's fog wrapped the city like a secret, and I used it to my advantage. I showed up where Noah was never too often, never too eager. A bookstore in North Beach where he browsed poetry. A food truck festival by the Embarcadero where he laughed with friends. Each time, I dropped a piece of the old Lucas, letting Ethan shine through. I asked about his sketches, his dreams, the things the novel never cared about. Slowly, he stopped flinching when I appeared. One evening, we ended up at Ocean Beach, the waves crashing under a bruised purple sky. Noah kicked at the sand, his hands shoved in his jacket pockets. "Why are you doing this, Lucas?" he asked, his voice barely audible over the surf. "What's your angle?" "No angle," I said, stepping closer. The wind tugged at my scarf, and I felt exposed. Raw. I've been someone I'm not for too long. I'm trying to be better. He looked at me, really looked, and I saw the battle in his eyes, doubt versus hope. "You hurt me," he said quietly. "For years." "I know." My throat tightened. Lucas's memories of those moments daunts. Betrayals burn like acid. I can't erase that, but I can try to make it right. He didn't answer, but he didn't walk away either. We stood there, the ocean roaring, and I felt the weight of a story trying to pull us back into its gears. I wouldn't let it. Days turned into weeks, and Noah started seeking me out. A text to meet at a jazz club in the Fillmore. A late-night walk through Chinatown. Neon signs casting red and gold across his face. Each moment felt stolen. Fragile. Like we were defying the universe itself. I learned Noah wasn't the perfect hero the novel painted him as. He was messy, insecure, afraid of disappointing everyone. He was real, and that made my feelings for him terrifyingly real too. But the novel's shadow loomed. Claire was circling, her schemes growing bolder. She cornered me at a gallery opening, her smile sharp as a blade. "You're slipping, Lucas. Noah's getting too close. Stick to the plan, or I'll make sure everyone knows what you're hiding." She didn't know I wasn't Lucas, but she knew enough to hurt me. In the novel, Lucas had a secret. He was in love with Noah. A truth he'd buried under cruelty to survive a world that judged him. If Claire exposed that now, it could ruin everything, not just for me, but for Noah, who was still figuring out who he was beyond the story's script. I needed to protect him. So, I played along. feeding Claire just enough to keep her at bay while I worked to unravel the auction plot. It was a high-stakes game, and I was running out of time. The night before the auction, Noah called me to his apartment. A small, cluttered place in the Castro filled with art supplies and books. "You're different," he said, standing too close, his breath warm. "I don't know why, but you are." "Maybe I'm finally being honest," I whispered. My hand brushed his, and for a moment, the world stopped. I wanted to tell him everything about Ethan, about the novel, about the fate we were dodging. But I couldn't. Not yet. He leaned in, and our lips almost met when his phone buzzed, shattering the moment. It was Amelia, reminding him about the auction. The story was fighting back, pulling him toward his destined path. I left his apartment with a sinking feeling, knowing tomorrow would test everything. The charity auction was a glittering trap, held in a sleek downtown venue with crystal chandeliers and power players in tailored suits. I wore Lucas's charm like armor. But inside, I was Ethan, terrified of losing Noah to the novel's relentless pull. Tonight, in the original story, Lucas would frame Noah for stealing auction funds, sparking a scandal that would haunt him for years. I had to stop it. Claire was already working the room, her eyes glinting with malice. I'd spent days planting false leads, redirecting her schemes to a dummy account that would expose her instead. But the risk was enormous if I miscalculated. Noah would pay the price. I found him near the stage, adjusting his tie, nervous but radiant. "You okay?" I asked, my voice low. He nodded, but his eyes searched mine. "You're here. That's good." Before I could respond, the auction began, bids flying like sparks. I slipped backstage, where Claire's hired tech was tampering with the financial system. I'd prepared for this, swapping his code with Minea, a trick I'd learned from a coder friend back in Seattle. When the system flagged an error, it pointed to Claire, not Noah. Her face paled as security approached, and I felt a rush of triumph. One plot point rewritten. But the victory was short-lived. Noah caught me backstage, his expression torn. "Lucas, what did you do?" "Claire's screaming that you set her up. She was going to ruin you," I said, stepping closer. "I couldn't let that happen." "Why?" His voice cracked. "Why do you care so much?" "Because I'm not Lucas. Because I'm falling for you. Because I'm fighting a story that wants us both to lose." I didn't say any of it. Instead, I took his hand, my thumb brushing his knuckles. "Because you deserve better than this world's script." He didn't pull away, but the moment was interrupted by Amelia, her eyes flashing with suspicion. "Noah, we need to talk. Alone." The rest of the night was a blur of accusations and whispers. Claire's downfall made headlines, but it didn't erase the tension between Noah and me. He was caught between trusting me and fearing the old Lucas. I left the auction feeling the story's claws tightening, pulling us toward the next crisis, Lucas's exposure as a fraud, meant to drive Noah into Amelia's arms. I couldn't let that happen. I started digging into Lucas's past, using his resources to uncover the novel's hidden threads. I found letters, old photos, proof that Lucas's cruelty stemmed from a broken heart and a family that rejected him for who he loved. It was a mirror to Noah's own fears, his parents, his friends, all expecting him to be the perfect, straight hero. I knew I had to show him he wasn't alone. One rainy night, I found Noah at a dive bar in the Tenderloin, nursing a whiskey. He looked haunted, his sketchbook open to a drawing of me, Lucas, but softer, human. "I don't understand you," he said, his voice rough. "But I want to." "Then let me show you," I said. We left the bar, walking through the rain-soaked streets, our shoulders brushing. At a quiet park, I told him about Lucas's pain, about the love he'd hidden. I didn't mention the novel, but I shared enough to make him see the truth. We were both fighting to be free. He kissed me then, under a flickering street lamp, rain mixing with the warmth of his lips. It was reckless, perfect, and terrifying. The novel's climax was coming: Lucas's death. A car crash meant to punish his defiance. I had to keep Noah safe, keep us both alive, and rewrite the ending before it was too late. The novel's final act was a storm gathering over San Francisco. I could feel the story's insistence on tragedy, pushing me toward Lucas's doomed fate. But I wasn't just Lucas anymore, and Noah wasn't just the hero. We were something new, something the pages couldn't contain. I spent days unraveling the last plot points. The car crash was set for a charity drive on a winding coastal road, orchestrated by a minor character, Victor, who blamed Lucas for his own failures. I tracked Victor down, confronting him in a dimly lit warehouse. "Whatever you're planning," I said, my voice steady. "It ends now." He laughed, but I'd already tipped off the police with an anonymous call. When they arrived, Victor's scheme collapsed, and the crash was averted. But the story wasn't done fighting. Noah was pulling away, overwhelmed by his own doubts. "I don't know who I am anymore," he confessed one night, standing on his apartment's fire escape, the city sprawling below. "It's not supposed to happen. It's happening because we're choosing it," I said, my heart pounding. "You're not just a role, Noah. Neither am I." He looked at me, his eyes bright with unshed tears. "What if we're wrong? What if this breaks everything?" "Then we break it together," I said, taking his face in my hands. "I'd rather fight for this than live someone else's story." The final blow came at a gala meant to celebrate Noah's rise as the city's golden boy. Amelia was there, radiant and determined, ready to pull him back into the novel's orbit. The story wanted its perfect ending: Noah and Amelia together, while Lucas faded into nothing. I felt the weight of it, the pressure to let go, to let the script win. But I couldn't. I found Noah in the crowd, his face pale, torn. "Don't do this," I whispered, pulling him aside. "Don't let them decide who you are." He hesitated, then grabbed my hand, pulling me onto the dance floor. The music swelled, and we moved together, eyes locked, the world fading away. It was a defiance, a declaration. Whispers spread, but I didn't care. Neither did he. Amelia confronted us later, her voice sharp. "You're throwing everything away, Noah, for him." "I'm choosing myself," Noah said, his voice firm. For the first time. The novel's power broke that night. I felt it, like a cord snapping. Lucas's death never came. Instead, Noah and I left the gala, hand in hand, stepping into a future we'd written ourselves. We moved to a small house in Oakland, where Noah painted, and I started a community center for kids like us, people the world tried to define but couldn't. Years later, standing on that same cliff from the image prompt, Noah's hand in mine, I looked out at the bay and knew we'd won. The novel's tragedy was gone, replaced by a life built on love, defiance, and the courage to rewrite everything. We weren't side characters or heroes. We were just us, and that was enough.